Welcome into episode 19 of the Stomp the Bus podcast. We are back talking all things ASU football, and I have my guests back. I have my co-host back. Colton Dodgson's back on the podcast. 2 weeks out in the wilderness, just eating berries and choking out rattlesnakes. Where were you, bud?
Well, Mark, I'm gonna keep it real with you here. One of the days I fell asleep, and just kind of slept right through it. The other day, my fiance tire was flat at work. I had to go pick her up. I told her I wasn't coming because I had a podcast to record. So I told her to figure it out. But upon further review, I figured I would just go help her out. I tried to come back last week. Couldn't make it happen, unfortunately, but my triumphant return is here. It's an honor to be back.
That's right. Well, I'm glad to have you back. I was just basically going stream of consciousness in the last 2 episodes, talking about.
Nice. That builds character, though, talking essentially to yourself. So I'm sure you grew a lot throughout that process. If it's any consolation, the episodes with just you performed pretty well on the Reddit post that I dropped these into. So maybe you have to just fire me. So that could be something we explore in a future production meeting. And by
can I fire you if you don't get paid? And none of us get paid?
Volunteers can be relieved of their duties. You can relieve me of my post. So I think
you wish you could get fired for what Paul Pierce did, or not even did, but the situation he was in.
Oh yeah, that would have been. I don't recall, so I don't want to misspeak on this and have it be something terrible and me say, oh yeah, that would have been cool, and then we lose our 14 listeners. That might be optimistic. 14 might be high, but yeah, it's great to be back. I have a lot of insight to provide, as always. That's what you've come to expect from me, is groundbreaking analysis. So just all around pleasure to be back.
I'm glad. Well, ASU, since you've been gone, they went 1 well, I guess. Did you do an episode? Did you react to the Stanford game? Were we?
No, I think that I missed that one.
Okay.
That was one that I missed. Between reacting to the Stanford loss, the game
and the Colorado win.
Yeah, the game in which they lost to a team that did not score a touchdown.
Yeah.
And
that's a bad loss. And one of the themes I want to talk about this episode is, had they won that game, the Stanford game, this season would feel totally different because a bowl game would be much more in reach. You would have to go 2-1 down these next stretch as opposed to 3-0, which that's barring, some craziness, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And I don't, even with that Stanford win, I don't know how likely it would have been going. I mean, you have to go 3-0, right? In the last 3 games.
No. So
if you beat Stanford, you could go 2-1.
If we had beaten Stanford, we'd be 4-5 right now instead of 3-6.
Got it.
So
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, still
it would still be tough.
The trip to Pullman and then
and hosting Oregon State, you would have to split those and beat U of A. It would be tough, but that's a reasonable thing that could happen.
Much more likely, yeah, or realistic. Maybe likely is the wrong word, but realistic certainly.
Well, as opposed to the current reality where you have to go to Wazoo this weekend, and then you get Oregon State at home. And Oregon State, they're like a borderline ranked type team. They're pretty good. And the only teams they've lost to are they've just lost to teams that are better than them. They lost to. That sounds really simple, but they lost to Washington, Utah, and USC. They didn't drop a game to Stanford or Eastern Michigan, like some teams. So, and then U of A is going to be tough just because they can score a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah, that game will be a battle of really bad defenses because holy cow. I mean,
it's an SEC podcast now.
Yeah, I had a voice crack.
Yeah, that was something, Mark.
It runs in my family.
Did you go to the UCLA game?
I did go. I went with our mutual friend Connor. It was a
Friend of the
pretty
show.
full house. Like at the start of the like in the first half, it was really full. The stadium. I was uh I was actually kind of surprised how full it was. People emptied out. I mean, it was 28 nothing. No, I'm sorry, not 28 nothing. 28-10 at half. Decent amount of people left after that, and then it kind of emptied out. And I mean, ASU did come back, and it was
Made
it
it
was a
interesting at least.
6-point game. It never really felt like ASU was going to win because ASU just couldn't stop UCLA on the ground. They ran for 402 yards.
That's bonkers.
That's so bad.
169 passing yards, and they scored 50 points.
Yeah, yeah.
There's 69 passing yards.
Oh, and by the way, Zach Charbonnet, the best running back in the Pac-12, probably. Actually, I think it almost definitely is him. He didn't even play. They
Yeah.
didn't need him. They
Jake Bobo had a 33-yard rush.
Was it a rush? Huh.
That's what it said. One attempt for 33 yards. That guy's a monster. I watched him play against
He is
Washington.
good. He had
And
3 catches for 64 yards.
is he listed as
Um,
he's listed as a wide receiver. I thought he was listed as a tight end, but
where does it say he had a run? I don't see.
on the box score, it says he had one rush. I don't know if it was like a pass behind the line.
I'm
or
looking at the
something.
ESPN box score and it's not showing that.
I'm on CBS. I don't know
Oh,
if it was just like a discrepancy or whatever.
yeah. Okay. It says in the passing category that he had a catch of 33 yards.
Okay,
So
so either
maybe,
way,
yeah. At one point, he had a 33-yard game.
97. Yeah, 97 yards from scrimmage. So
But regardless, I mean, Casimir Allen, 11 carries for 137 yards.
I mean, a long of 75. So
That is so
then,
bad.
yeah,
Dorian Thompson Robinson, 10 rushes for 120 yards. Some of those were just really good plays. Like DCR is a really good player, and he's not gonna I don't think he's gonna make the Heisman, but he's probably at like that next group of quarterbacks behind the ones that'll be like in the Heisman race. Um, very elusive. Didn't really. He didn't throw. He actually threw an interception on their first drive, but ASU can only score a field goal on that. So that kind of doomed him. Yeah, they had, and then their third rusher had Keegan Jones, 12 rushes for 98 yards. Like, holy cow.
yeah. If you subtract Jake Bobo, regardless of if that comes up as a rush for you, it does for me. So if you remove that from the equation, this average yards per carry for all four of these players was probably up around 7.5, 8 yards per carry. So when you are on average getting gashed for that number every time somebody runs the ball, it's no shock that they scored 50 points with 169 passing yards.
Yeah.
So that's certainly less than optimal. You never want to see that. But if we're going to talk about a positive, I think the game that X Valade had is just insane.
Yeah, he was all over the place. They were going to him all the time. Another good game from Badger, Conyers. And I mean, Bourguet, the offense
was it just check down city for Bourguet or what?
Yeah, so no, not really. He did have some checkdowns, but they were able to move the ball in like the second quarter, but they just weren't able to like cash in and score.
Yeah.
And then that kind of put them behind and pretty much set the tone for the rest of the game. But a lot of this did come in like garbage time. But I mean, look, they made it.
I don't know if you could say anything was garbage time here. I mean, maybe UCLA checks out a little bit after that, the 42-18 score in
Yeah,
the
see
first
that's
quarter.
where I think the thing is it is college football though, and teams with the clock stopping after first downs, um, it just defenses are just worse, and so teams come back more often, and ASU kind of did that.
Yeah,
Um,
it was just ex Valade, like putting them on his
yeah.
back and carrying
Well,
them.
yeah, and it was not Badger. It was Bourguet directing the offense, and
Yeah,
um,
350 yards. That's impressive. And I mean,
yeah,
if you're looking at these receiving numbers, just the targets, I mean, he targeted 4 different receivers at least 7 times. So that's impressive. I like that, his ability to, spread the ball around. Obviously, I mean, ex Valade still ran the ball 20 times, which is crazy for a game that they were losing by
yeah.
whatever at 41-18 in the
I
third
wonder how
quarter.
many of those were in the first half. If there were like 12 of them
Well,
were
I
like
mean,
first
even after they went up 48-18, 2 of the touchdowns were 1-yard runs from Valade, which I mean makes sense, but um yeah, it's interesting that he got 20 carries in a game where they were losing pretty substantially
right.
for most of it. But I mean, 92 rush yards, 89 receiving yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 10 catches. That's just a monster day.
No,
And I
like
mean,
Valde, like, and this is why it sucks that the like he's a good player. Like I bet he'll be like I bet he'll like next year. Like I could see him making the NFL. I mean, he does a lot. Like he doesn't really have like any like I don't want to say any weaknesses because like of course he has some weaknesses. He's a but it seems like he could just do a lot for you. Like he can run the ball pretty well,
I mean,
inside,
6 foot,
outside. He's like
200
fairly
pounds.
shifty enough.
Yeah,
Um, he can break tackles, and then he can catch out of the backfield as well. And so you can see
definitely.
why we use him, and it's a good thing. Like some of the transfers that have come in haven't really hit, but he's been one of them that 100% has hit.
Definitely. And I think that's a skill set that you see, I mean, translate to the NFL all the time. That guy who can, catch the ball out of the backfield, be a reliable target, 6 foot, 200 pounds. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
a huge running back, but I don't know. It's
He's big
somebody that
enough. There's plenty of smaller guys that are.
yeah, and smaller guys that are shifty and play a role on their respective offense. So I
And
don't know.
he's
It'd be
fairly
cool.
shifty too. Like he can make guys miss. Um, like I could see Valde next year being like a guy that like we're picking up like right now in fantasy football season because the first string running back on whatever team he's on got injured, and so like it's him and the other guy who are getting the snaps. He's like the
Yeah,
undrafted free agent or something. Like
yeah.
and you can see like he's just this ASU offense. He's been like the one thing that's kind of like just
I mean,
kept
just
everything together, I guess. And obviously, like you can't do it alone, and the results show that. But
right.
uh,
And just for reference, Michael Carter, the running back for the Jets, who's kind of that dual threat guy, he's a 5'8", 201 pounds.
right,
So I mean, to think about like he doesn't have the prototypical size or whatever it is, I think X Validate definitely has a future, and it's cool that he stopped here along the way. I think he's somebody that can make an
well,
impact at the next level.
yeah, and he's clearly not like an elite NFL prospect because then he would have been gone by now. So
Right. And I mean, running backs, the good, I guess I say the good thing, but running backs, late round running backs and undrafted guys get opportunities all the time at this
yeah,
position just because of the lack of, I mean, we've seen such a transition at the pro
just the nature
level,
of the position.
right? And the beatings that they take, on a game to game basis, you're not seeing a lot of teams invest premium money or premium
Yeah,
picks in guys at the position, which makes it all the more feasible that he could stick with somebody. But yeah, I'm excited to see where he goes from here. He's kind of been like the silver lining of this season, just a guy who's
yeah,
who's fun to watch in the midst of like everything that's going on. Him and Badger, it's been cool to see Badger's development too. Um, but yeah,
yeah,
I'm excited to see how Valaday ends the season. And then where he goes from here. But I think he will get a shot at the next level. It's just the nature of the position and his skill set seems to translate pretty well.
yeah. I'm glad. Yeah, you're right on about Valde and Badger. I'm glad you mentioned he's been such a bright spot this season, even though, like you said, has been a lot
Yeah,
of bright spots. I mean, we're talking about a 50-36 loss where the other team ran for 400 yards.
yeah,
That's
but I mean, Badger's on pace to finish with close to 1,000 yards. He's at 710 now with 3 games left. With the targets
right.
that he's getting in this offense, he should get extremely close to that 1,000-yard threshold, which I mean would
Well,
put him at what, like 85 receiving yards on average per game,
yeah.
which
And I mean,
is
he'll probably get a lot of yards against Arizona just because of the nature of the way that game's going to be.
yeah, it's
So,
kind of a shootout. And I think he's when we came into this season, we were trying to identify who the receiver was going to be, with the exodus that happened at the receiver position with, Johnny Wilson, LV Bunkley Shelton, all those guys transferring.
yourself.
And we were, or at least me, I'll speak for myself because my prediction was a guy who hasn't even seen the field. And that's like, we weren't even sure who was going to step up in this room. Who could it be?
Right.
And Badger has definitely done that. It's been,
Well, I mean, we were talking about Cam Johnson heading into the
yeah,
season,
that's
and
I couldn't remember his name, but I
well,
remember that was the
we
guy.
haven't seen much of him at all this season. And look,
Yeah,
the guys we've been talking about have been Badger, obviously. Brian Thompson continues to show up. He's been a lot more involved in the offense really since Iguano's taken over. Um,
mhm.
and he really didn't play that well last year, I don't think. But he's been good this year. He's contributing. And then Giovanni Sanders, walk on. Uh, the good thing about this season is a guy like him's getting a chance to play, and he's not like he's contributing a fair amount. I mean,
Yeah,
um,
I mean, 30
so
catches for 361 yards. That's about a 3.6 average, right? Or sorry, I misspoke on that. A tick over 10 yards a catch,
yeah,
which is pretty solid. It's not some sort of deep threat burner, but it's a guy who makes an impact when he touches the ball. He had 5 catches for 63 yards in this game, an 18-yard catch. That's effective stuff. My concern is, I really, and I could absolutely see this happening with the landscape of college football now. Where is Elijah Badger going to be playing next season?
right.
So
Well, I
has he boosted himself? Has he played so well that he's put himself on the radar? And you know what? It's more power to him. If he transfers somewhere, he has every right to do so.
right.
If he's earned that opportunity, you can't knock the guy for that, especially with the uncertainty surrounding this program. If
Well,
that's
I
what's for
mean,
his future, then do it. But I mean,
yeah.
he might have played himself to a point where he can go elsewhere.
Well, he might have. So there's two things I want to go off of that. Like, um, I mean, he probably had opportunities to transfer last off season. Like, uh, even though he didn't contribute as much, like he was a high recruit, so I'd imagine he's been tempted before. Um, and then I just thought of one more thought, like if if he continues to have a connection with Bourguet, maybe he's like, okay, like at least I know here I have a good quarterback who can get me the ball. Um, and then the other thing is, I mean, I'll have to look at his eligibility real quick, but I mean, what if he gets NFL buzz?
I mean, he's listed as a sophomore. I don't know if that's a redshirt sophomore, or if he got the COVID year. I don't know if he's draft eligible.
Let me check the.
The COVID year threw everything off in terms of like classes and stuff.
I don't even know if he was here for the COVID year, but
He's
I'm just
listed
saying the
as a
way he's playing,
sophomore.
like I could see the NFL being interested in him because he's a good route runner and he's made some incredible catches too. Like even
Yeah,
some of the
I
ones that
think.
like haven't counted have been very good.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he's. You never know, right? I don't.
You have to. Oh no, I agree with you on the fact that like you have to. Like if you're an ASU fan, you have to prepare yourself for the possibility of that happening. Like you can't just go
Right.
into like
You
you can't
can't
just
you can't
bank your
assume that
thumb and
he will be
staying.
back here next season. You can't operate under
Right.
that assumption. So we could very well.
Says yes, it says he's a redshirt sophomore. So
Oh, okay. So
that
That's interesting. So that
And
could,
look,
I mean,
we saw Frank Darby leave when he got, I think, and he got drafted in the 6th round. He could have stayed, but if you're getting drafted, like, I don't know, that's a tough thing to turn down. But he is only a redshirt sophomore, so we'll
yeah,
see.
is this,
He's playing
I
really
don't know.
well. Like,
Yeah, he is playing really well. And I mean, it's not like, the NFL is a foregone conclusion or anything like that. I personally would be a little more worried about the possibility of a transfer. Um, but I'm trying to think, is it like college basketball? And I don't know off the top of my head where a player can like kind of dip their feet in, would I have prospects if I declared? Or
I
is it
think
like
I, I
once you
think it's kind of
declare,
like
you
that
declare?
now. I
Okay.
think, I'm not totally sure. Um, yeah, true, and I'm sure a lot of guys do that. I mean, why would you not?
I mean, you
Uh,
can do that with the transfer portal.
right? Yeah, you
I
can. I
mean,
mean,
it's
that's what Omar
obviously
Norman Law
completely
did.
different.
He went in the transfer portal and then just stayed. So
Yeah,
probably
definitely.
someone came with some NIL deal, like, hey, we'll keep you here.
Yeah. See, my concern is like this program is so dysfunctional right now, and
Right.
it's not even. We talked about Sean Aguano ad nauseum, at least the last couple times I was on this show, and I think he's performed admirably. The offense looks way better, for the most part. Obviously, hit a couple speed bumps. The
Right.
the development under Bourguet has been impressive.
Yeah.
Uh, and obviously, it's never easy taking over after your head coach is fired 3 games in. He's done the best job he can, but
Yeah.
it seems like they're going to go in a completely different direction, and you're going to have to find a coach who's going to be willing to take over a team in the midst of this investigation, regardless of when that happens. When ASU gets the notice of allegations and there's finally some movement on that front, you have to find a guy who's willing to step in and try to do this in the midst of all of that. And it's like, how many promising candidates are willing to do that? Um, I mean, it remains to be seen. Maybe there is a guy who steps in and takes that challenge on, but there's also the element of how many guys are going to want to stay if they play themselves into a position to be able to go elsewhere,
Right.
especially when their futures are on the line. A shot at the NFL is on the line. Going to a program that's much more prominent and at the forefront in one of those conferences. So I don't know. There's a lot of wrinkles to this, especially considering the current landscape of college football and the current landscape of this program right now. So
Right. Well, I think in terms of the guys transferring, potentially transferring, I think a lot of that will be reflected in it. I think a lot of that will be like decided whenever the next coach is hired.
mhm,
Whether they keep
that's a great point.
Iguano or they hire someone else. And I do think a lot of high profile coaches would stay away from this job if they have other options. Auburn open since you um, were last on, but
Mhm,
the name that I've seen bandied about like in the media and like people are talking about him, especially up in Oregon, is Oregon offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham. And the thing with him is he's
mhm,
young and he's from Arizona. Went to ASU, was on the was a part of the Graham staff as like a lower level member, maybe a GA. Followed Mike Norvell to Memphis and some other places, and he's I mean Bo Nix might win the Heisman this year, so he's like a hot name. And I was doing some reading on him. Like apparently he like injured his he like tore his ACL as a senior in high school. So his career was over. And then for like the next 3 years, he was his high school's offensive coordinator, and then eventually kind of moved up
wow,
from there.
that's actually
So
crazy.
yeah, so
Um,
like he's pretty young. He's like 32 or 33, but I think he's been doing this for like 15 years. You know,
yeah, I think my favorite part about what I've seen from his performance this year at Oregon is just the growth. You mentioned Bo Nix. I watched that first game against Georgia, and it was like, this looks
it
like a
is
team.
Georgia, but
I
like
know,
they're the
I
best team.
understand
But
I
yeah,
understand it's Georgia, but to go into that game and like It's tough. But what I'm trying to say is like from that point to now, the growth that offense has kind of like undergone, right? You could have been
Yeah.
demoralized after that. But they stayed the course. They're seventh in the college football playoff rankings now, and
No, I think they're sixth.
are they sixth? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought. Oh wait, you're right. They are sixth. Um,
They have a good
yeah,
shot. They I think if there's a one-loss Pac-12 champion, I think they're going to get in, but that's a separate discussion. Anyway, continue.
yeah. No, that's. I mean, that's all I was gonna say. Just the job that he did to right the ship. I mean, you're coaching 18 to 22-year-olds. If I had just gotten blown out at 18 by Georgia, I'm like, dude, I don't know. And maybe that's why I didn't never play college football. But I'm like, I'm demoralized after that. I'm like, that
Yeah.
sucks. Are we not good? You
No,
know, but
yeah. No,
to
that's
right the ship the way that they did and put themselves in the position they're in. Even that game against Wazoo, that game was over, and they came
yeah.
back and won that game in Pullman. So that's, I mean, that's impressive too. The sort of resilience I've seen from Oregon has been impressive, and if he can bring something like that, I mean, you just mentioned it, tearing your ACL as a senior and then being an offensive coordinator is impressive. That's what you said, right? He was the offensive
Yeah.
coordinator for his team. Yeah. So I mean, he seems like a resilient guy. He seems like a guy who's going to stay the course, which could fare well if he steps in the midst of this investigation. But
Yeah. And the other thing you mentioned about him, like, um, I would love for the coach to stay for like 10 years and it'd be awesome. But if if the deal is coach comes in, he has 2 10-win seasons, then bolts, I'm taking that, you know? And
yeah,
then
at least
I
you're a
I
prominent
just
program. At least you're a
exactly.
desirable job at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I just think with ASU, you need something to just inject life into the program and get, hopefully this all involves Ray Anderson leaving, getting fired, whatever, so more booster money can come in. Um, anyway, but uh, yeah, so we'll see what happens. Iguano has done well enough in the sense that like if we did keep him, I wouldn't be super upset, but I also would be like, I feel like he wouldn't have a super long leash either, you know.
I don't think it's gonna happen, especially after that Stanford game. I think
Yeah,
we kind of had this
that was bad.
tone for a couple of shows where we were like, this could happen, this could happen. We were getting a little optimistic, and then after that Stanford game, it was like, I don't see a scenario where this happens anymore. It seems like they're gonna go in a different direction. I mean, hats off to him for the job that he's done, right? Stepping
Yeah,
into this position, doing at least fielding a competitive team in the midst
and
of
that
everything going
yeah, the only good thing about the second half of this season has been, look, we're a below average team, we're 3-6, but the Bourguet and Iguano combination is at least making it be like, oh, but we're gonna still score 35 points a game, and we may give up 42, but
on. Yeah.
it's at least like, okay, like I'd rather watch this than be a team that loses 19-10 all the time.
Right,
Like,
right. You could be a Northwestern fan.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, like think about. I mean, look, like I'd rather lose. Like the UCLA game was a lot more fun to watch than the Stanford game, even though we both lost.
yeah,
Um,
I was in Ohio for a wedding, like getting updates on my phone about that game, and it was insane. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Has a team ever lost to a team that didn't score a touchdown while also scoring two touchdowns? Like
yeah, that I don't know.
that
Probably
seems like
because it's only two. There's probably
yeah,
been like a 18-14. Some team made 6 field goals or 15 or
right.
maybe like a safety. Like they made. I don't. Yeah, I don't know, but
It's
it's
like it
very
feels
rare.
unheard of, like
Yeah.
to pull that off because I mean
Wasn't there
college.
like a playoff game in the NFL a few years ago where the Steelers went, like it was in Kansas City, the Alex Smith Kansas City, and the Steelers, I think they kicked like 6 field goals and they won 18, maybe it was like 18-16 or something. It was crazy.
Interesting.
But
I don't remember, but
yeah,
it's one of those things too where it's even more. incredible in college, where college kickers can be so shaky.
Right.
To hit 5 field goals in a game
Right.
is pretty impressive. I don't know how far out they were, but yeah,
There were some
that's
short ones. There were a few like 40-yarders, but yeah.
still 40 yards in college football is like 55 in the NFL. Like,
Right. Right.
guys, those aren't automatic in college. I mean, Stanford's
They had a
usually,
good kicker. That Stanford
yeah,
always has a good kicker.
yeah, Stanford's the kicker factory, so
Well, yeah. Um. Anyway, speaking of Stanford, they actually lost over the weekend to our ASU's next opponent, Washington State. ASU
they
could only
got like
score 15 points
throttled.
on Stanford. Wazoo was able to hang 52. So
Yeah.
that should be fun. ASU's heading up to Pullman, Washington to take on the Cougs. Going to be a 1:30 kickoff on the Pac-12 network. It's going to be a tough matchup. I think the Cougs. I know they scored 52 points against Stanford, but if you've watched them this year, their offense has been just kind of clunky. They're kind of like the college version of the Cardinals, where like they should be better on offense, but when you watch them, they just they're not sustaining drives, you know? And so that's I feel like that's ASU's kind of window into winning this game is if Cameron Ward is just really inconsistent and they're able to get a few stops and maybe get off to a lead with Bourguet, but I'm confident in ASU not getting like blown out, but I don't think we're gonna win.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, at the beginning of the season, this was kind of my like lock for a loss. I think
Right.
we both said that. And it doesn't look any look like any less of a lock at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely taking Wazoo in this game, but I mean, again, there's a lot of it. This is a season where all of the silver linings are like the smaller pieces, right? The way
Right.
that this team kind of rallied in the midst of everything that happened. We talked about X Valade, we talked about Elijah Badger, but it's like you can't even get excited for next season because what is this going to look like?
Yeah,
You know?
well, yeah, like it's not real. I'm not even thinking about next season, like you
Right, but
just
I'm
want to
saying like
know.
you can't take anything from this season and say, "Oh, okay, it'll be cool to see how that develops next year." I mean,
Right.
maybe Bourget, like maybe that could
Yeah,
be.
no, I think Bourget is the end. I don't think Bourget is going anywhere. Like,
Yeah, I mean, he'll be a senior next year. I He doesn't seem like the guy who would transfer somewhere after everything that he's been through to get to this point. It seems like he'll be the guy next year. I mean, depending on the new coach.
right.
Uh, but yeah, I guess he would be the answer for what you could take from this year and apply to next year and get excited about. But
Yeah.
beyond Bourget, it's like who's going to be here, who's going to be coaching, who's going to be the athletic director, all of these things. It's just such a crazy time of like uncertainty and what is this program going to look like, this time, or I
True.
guess,
But I
around
guess I
August of
would
next
rather
year.
have that than Herm Edwards still being here and being like not even a threat for him to leave, and Ray
Yeah,
Anderson just being here and like it definitely feels like there's been some smoke around Ray Anderson maybe leaving soon, and I guess that's what like I would rather like you have to have the change like even if it's bad for a little bit, it might be worth it in the long run type of deal. So
yeah. I don't know how. It kind of seemed like Herm was like he should have been fired at the end of last year if his leash was as short as it was. And I mean, I say that, but the loss to Eastern Michigan is kind of like, all right, that's where we draw the line. But um,
God,
if they retain him at the end of next or the end of last year, it just didn't make sense, right? You kind of make the move then. Why do you even give
that
him
was the
3 games?
perfect time. You could have at
Yeah,
least tried to hire Kalen DeBoer. Ugh,
yeah. I mean, it was crazy timing, but again, you find a guy who could possibly be your starting quarterback next year. We'll see what happens with guys like Badger and things like that. I don't think it's kind of rare to see a skill player come back for, you know, a skill player that's performing come back for their senior year. It's kind of like they or their fourth year of eligibility. It's kind of like they jet as soon as they're eligible to do so. But maybe Badger's a little different. We'll see. We'll see who ends up coaching this team. There's a lot of will sees going into the last 3 games of the season, but I think the future for Sean Aguano might be set. I don't think he's going to be the guy. I don't think they're going to go in that direction. They're probably going to look for somebody else. But yeah, I guess what happens with him will be interesting to watch too. Does he go elsewhere? Does he stay with
Yeah,
the staff? Um, but yeah, that's kind of it's a weird state of flux that everything is in right now.
it is. And then it's also like, oh, we have this game against Wazoo, and it's like,
hmm The
oh,
games
well,
don't really seem as important.
no, they don't. They don't. Um, I, I it's funny. On your first episode, you're talking about how much like, oh, Territorial Cup is overplayed, yada yada. Like, I
Yeah.
still have I am interested in the Territorial Cup this year because U of A has the same record as we do, and they're viewed as like going on the upward trajectory, right? Like Jed Fish, they have a better offense, got a decent recruiting class. If ASU was able to just beat U of A here, and like, I don't know, I feel like that would be a good ending to a bad season type of deal. Um, Even
Yeah,
though it
it's
wouldn't
I
change
will
anything
say
fundamentally about the program, but
yeah,
whatever.
definitely. And I agree with that in the sense that it's like the territorial cup in seasons past has been like, why are we getting up for this game? This is so annoying. This is like the mediocrity bowl. Like, who cares, sort of. But at this point, it's kind of like, okay, who is still the lowest of the low at this point? And
Yes,
I guess
yes,
U of A's arrow is pointed upward right now, right? They seem to be at least making steps in the right direction.
yes.
It seems like they've got a guy who's going to be a solid coach. It seems like they're working back, whereas ASU, their arrows are kind of like this in
Yep.
terms of like depth.
As of
Um, I
right now.
hope
Yeah.
I hope that was a solid depiction of the point I'm trying to make. But I
Podcast listeners don't get that context.
yeah, if you're watching, that's what we're looking at. But anyway, it's more compelling this year for me just because it's like, all right, can we at least have this? Because we have nothing
Right,
else,
right.
you
Well,
know?
yeah, I feel like most territorial cups in like our fandom as ASU, I feel like it's been a lot of like 6-5 ASU
On the
heading
heels
in.
of disappointing seasons, on the heels of underperforming seasons,
Yeah.
that's what they've
And then
all
it's like, oh,
been.
we beat U of A, but who cares? Like
But we
last
were,
year's version, like we beat the crap out of U of A, but like it was just
yeah,
it's just a weird way to end the year when the teams are in such different when like ASU was kind of already like I don't want to say failed, but like hadn't met their goals, and then U of A is just like, oh, I hope we can win our third game. But
yeah,
this year it's going to be like, who's going to go 4-8 and who's going to be 3-9? It's
yeah.
like,
It's like who is going to be in the pit of despair in the state of
yeah,
Arizona. And it's like my rooting interest is like I just hope to stay out of that pit. You know,
exactly. Well,
it's
and
not so
the
much
thing,
the rivalry or anything like that. It's just like, okay, this is the one game that still kind of matters on this schedule.
right?
Maybe we end on a good note and then we just see where we go from here. But at least get this in a season where so many things have gone wrong.
Right.
Not that they
Well,
were
and my thought
expected
is
to be
like,
good, but
yeah, my thought is like, oh, like if we were able to win, oh, you couldn't even beat this ASU team, like the 2022 Sun Devils, you couldn't beat, so
that's
um
certainly an argument you can make. That game is going to be 45-42.
oh, it's gonna be
That game is going to be a
okay,
shootout.
I was on Twitter yesterday and I was someone had these defensive metrics for every Power 5 team, and the bottom two teams were ASU and then UVA. I'm like,
Perfect.
I believe it. Like,
That's how
we
we
just gave up
like
50
it.
points. They gave up 45 to Utah. Like,
Yeah.
we are, yeah. Um, that'll be a fun game to watch just because it, it it'll just be a scoring
It's
fest.
it's in Tucson this year, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, again, the mediocrity bowl. It's not even mediocrity anymore.
The
It's
below
just
average
like
bowl. It's yeah.
the well below average
Yeah.
bowl.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. You got
Presented
anything else
by
you wanna
Desert Financial.
what?
I said the well below average bowl presented by Desert Financial.
Yeah.
Get that on the bowl schedule.
Should be what would be a good sponsor for it?
The well below average bowl.
Has to be an Arizona spawn by the Law Tigers.
No, it's got to be like the well below average food. The like the food that you've had in Tempe that is significantly below average, but you still eat it.
You eat it because you're yeah.
I see in my heart. I'm kind of thinking Geno's, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Geno's, so I don't
The
know
thing
if
is
I
with
can do
Geno's, you
that.
don't really expect anything. You're just kind of like, it's here.
Okay, so maybe we'll go with Geno's there.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
well below average bowl presented by Geno's.
Not Geno Smith though.
Oh no.
He's well above average.
Nope, he did not write back.
He did not. Yeah, one thing I did mention on the last episode was there's been a little bit more just smoke rumors about San Diego State getting added to the Pac-12. What are your thoughts on that if that does happen?
I don't know. I think it would make sense regionally. San Diego State, with the exception of this year, I think this year's been
Right.
kind of a down year for them. Every time I've watched them, it's
They've
been
been
like,
bad for
yeah,
their standards. Like I think
right.
they went like 10-2 last year. Like they were a good team. They put some guys in the league. Um, no, yeah, they were a good team last year.
Wait,
They
okay, so
beat
there's
the
a,
living tar out of U of A last year.
sorry, I was on the scoreboard and I noticed that there is a T Bourguet that plays for Western Michigan.
Yeah, that's his
And
brother.
oh, okay. So
Yeah.
he has, that's cool. I didn't even know that. All right. Anyway, I think it makes sense regionally. I think they're usually a competitive team. It would be, it would make sense in terms of you lose the two California schools, maybe add a San Diego State and somebody like a Fresno State a little further north, to keep up your presence, the Pac-12's presence in California.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they still have Cal and Stanford, but
In
um,
Southern California.
in
Even though it's
Southern
not
California, Fresno's I think a little more central, but still
well,
getting San Diego and Fresno to kind of
and
obviously.
they may just add San Diego State and that's it because
Oh, okay.
they're
Do
so
the
much more
Pac-11.
of an obvious option than anyone else that's left, right? Because
Yeah.
we're not peeling off Big 12 schools, so
No, no. I don't know. I feel like we'll have to wait and see. It'll probably all start to happen like right after this season ends. You'll see a lot of reports and stuff start to pick up again really quick.
yeah,
Uh, but the interesting thing for me, based on like realignment and all of the changes that are being made in college football right now, was I saw that the 12 team format is supposed to be implemented as early as 2024,
yeah.
which would mean next season is the last season without a 12 team playoff, which I think is going to be, incredible. I'm so
And by the
excited to see
way,
it.
I want to say this. I think getting to the 12-team playoff is a realistic goal for ASU. Not getting there all
Yeah,
the time, okay? But TCU is a top 4 team right now. And maybe if you want to say TCU is a better football school than ASU, fine, but they're not like like a enormous gap better than us, like Oregon or USC or something.
it's
So
realistic, I think, with a 12 team format
12
that you
teams.
could.
I'm not saying 14, but yeah.
No, I think with a 12 team format, even if you don't win the Pac 12, it might be a little more difficult that way. But there's a scenario where you could lose 2 or 3 games depending on
Probably
who they
2, but
do.
yeah.
I mean, depending on who it's to and depending on
Right.
how it all shakes out ahead of you and everything like that. There's a scenario where you could get in without even winning your conference. And I think 2 to 3 wins, even for the less or the least optimistic fan you'll talk to, I think 2 to 3 wins could be like, okay, yeah, that could be like a reasonable, maybe not reasonable, but like the peak that this team could reach. And with a 12-team format, that peak could end up with a playoff berth, which would be interesting. I don't think they'll be there anytime soon,
Right.
but I think once they right the ship, if they make the right hire, if they start to uh, get back on the right track in terms of recruiting, do all these things, go into the NIL era without claiming that your perspective is to develop players. Do all of these things. If they play their cards right, I think it's definitely something that could happen well down the line. But it's because right now thinking about anything beyond the Bad Boys Mower Bowl is like a pipe dream, right? So
Right.
thinking about a playoff berth would be like, wow, that's incredible. So it's cool. I'm glad they're doing that. Obviously, you don't want to see like 64 teams get in, like to call it the basketball tournament or whatever. But I think 12 for college football is like perfect. I think that's the
Right.
right amount of teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, that kind of wraps up my thoughts on that. And yeah, don't have anything else to say. You got anything else
Nice,
about
Mark.
ASU
Well,
football?
it's about what?
About ASU football? I'm looking through the Pullman weather right now for Saturday.
What are we
37
looking at?
degrees and partly cloudy,
Ooh,
so not that bad. It's chilly.
37 degrees. What are you talking about? Not that bad.
Okay, like
These are Arizona guys, man.
yes, it's bad, but it's let me put yeah, okay. It's bad, but it's not like it's 37 degrees and snowy and windy.
Okay, yeah,
The
you.
point being that it's just like cold, but not like there's no other elements. It's just that, you know.
So the
And they'll be
frozen
running
metal.
around like
So the frozen metal of all of the face masks are going to be dry when they hit the
not
arms
at
of these other
37
players.
degrees.
Yeah, dude, those are gonna. It's metal face masks, man. Those are gonna be freezing. Taking one of those in the arm when it's that cold
Well,
is
yeah.
like the most painful thing. Getting tackled in when it's that cold is like brutal.
I feel like you're overrating how cold 37 degrees is.
37 is freezing for
I,
somebody who's used to Arizona temperatures.
okay, but in Arizona at night it gets down to like in the 40s, so like
That is so false. That is so false.
it
40
totally
degrees?
does.
No shot. It is currently 55.
Okay. Yeah, not all
Oh,
year
wait.
round.
Okay, well, I guess tomorrow is going to be 46. So
Yeah,
maybe.
look at the lows, 49, 45.
Okay, but it wasn't like that last week. All I'm
Yeah.
saying, hang on. This is the point I'm trying to make.
It will be
Right
difficult for
now,
ASU.
right now in Arizona, we're getting used to those lows. You're not
Right. No, that's fair.
necessarily used to those lows yet. So going to Pullman this weekend and playing a football game in 37-degree weather is going to be awful for a team that is conditioned to play in Tempe
So
or
okay,
wherever else.
I think it will be ugh, disadvantageous
Disadvantageous. There you
to
go.
them. That's how you pronounce it. Uh, but I don't like. I guess my thing is like you're going to you're going to Pullman in mid-November. I was expecting it very well could be much worse. Is my point. Like, what if it's 25 degrees and snowing? You know,
Okay,
like
if
that's
that's
not.
your point, then I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
It could be worse. It could be
So
worse. That I will concede to you.
yeah, and the thing I'm looking for in this game is I just want to see the offense continue to look good and Bourguet continue to play well. Because that's you mentioned we talked about it like that's kind of the thing to watch the rest of these games.
Yeah.
Because it's not like Wazoo and Oregon State like there's nothing really like inherently compelling about those matchups. Um, but I just want to see Bourguet, continue to play well. And Wazoo's got a good defense, and Oregon State's got a good defense too. Those might be the two best defenses in the league, which is kind of weird because it's like two like just kind of above average teams, but nothing more. Uh,
Right.
so it'll be a tough test for them. And if they can contain the WSU offense, then maybe they have a chance. But it's going to be tough to see them pulling this one out.
Yeah, I don't think it happens. I think this will be it in terms of the bowl. Well, I guess they could lose. No, you can't. They can't lose this one. They're
No,
already at six
no.
losses. Yeah, so I guess this will be in the nail in the coffin for um, bowl eligibility. But yeah, I don't see them winning this. If they do, I will take my L. But I
That would
don't
be
think
great.
it's going to
Yeah.
happen. Yeah, that would be fantastic. I'm trying to see what Utah is ranked. 13. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I haven't heard anything about Utah in a while. I mean, they've knocked off USC, but
Well, I think the thing with Utah is like they might be able to win the conference, but they don't have a chance of getting in the playoff because they have 2 losses.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Oregon, USC, and UCLA just have 1 loss each. So
I think I was looking at the rankings and everything, and it's kind of sad for Tennessee because it's like they can't even, unless Georgia loses, they can't even go to the SEC championship, right?
right.
But it's kind of crazy. And here's an ASU angle for you. Jaden Daniels has a realistic outlook to get to the college football playoff.
Okay, I don't think LSU is going to beat. Like I think
But
LSU
I'm
could
saying
make it.
they don't need
Yeah.
help from anybody. There is a path in front of them where if they win, a huge if they beat Georgia, they
Yeah.
will go through the playoff.
And so that's like sure they don't need help from anyone, but like they need help from a religious deity if they want to beat Georgia. You know.
Okay, that makes sense. But what
Like
I mean, if you look at their remaining schedule, right? You've got I'm pulling it up right now.
no, look, I could
They
see
play,
LSU going 10-2 and playing in the SEC championship game. I don't think they're going to be able to beat Georgia when they get there. So,
but the
Daniels has played
scenario
well
that
in recent weeks. He's played really well.
the
Clearly
I
made the
guess the
right choice with
scenario
him.
that Jaden Daniels is within reach of a college football
Oh
playoff
yeah.
berth is kind of incredible.
Well, and did you see this? Herm Edwards got hired back on ESPN.
Hmm.
And at first, I was like, okay, whatever. He's gonna be back doing NFL. He's gonna be a college football analyst. Like, what in the like? Did
Well,
you guys
he
not watch? Like, what if he has to break down like LSU beating Georgia? It's like, wow, they did a good job coaching him.
yeah. I don't know who made that decision, but
I mean,
doesn't seem
everyone
right.
likes him at ESPN, which
Yeah,
fine.
and I guess that's where I mean he's a
Just
good
have him as an
guy.
NFL analyst. Keep him
Yeah.
that.
Well, I guess he spent the last 4 or 5 years in college football, so that's probably what's
Kinda.
more relevant at this point. But yeah, LSU goes to Arkansas, which could be tough. I mean, they're 5-4, but that's a
That's
road
tricky.
game. That's a road game after a huge win in double overtime. And then UAB,
That's a win. And
probably a
then they have
win.
like at A&M.
And then they're at A&M,
Yeah.
which A&M is a train wreck, but I mean, still, any road game in the
Yeah,
SEC.
that's 2 road games in like places where the fans will show out and
Yeah,
so
but I mean, if they can win their last three, and well, I mean, I don't expect Alabama to lose 3 games in a season, but I
they
mean, they,
might. Alabama, dude, Alabama could easily have 4 losses right now. Because they almost lost to Texas and they came
yeah,
way close. They came pretty close to losing to Texas A&M.
yeah, they've
Um,
got Ole Miss, and I guess Saban kind of owns Lane Kiffin.
yeah, Ole Miss is weird. Like they're just not like they have 1 loss, but no one watches them and they're like, "Oh, this is a great 1 loss." Like it's just one of
Yeah,
those weird
former
teams.
Pac-12 quarterback Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
Um, but you go through the list, and it's like Bama has Ole Miss, Austin P, and then Auburn, and there's not really a loss there, I don't think.
I mean,
So
Ole Miss, they could lose to Ole Miss,
I
but
guess that one's on the road too. So I guess
just
the
because
same argument.
I think I think this Alabama team just is. I don't think they're anywhere near some of the recent Alabama teams because they don't have the receivers.
Yeah,
Like
that's
they've had
true. Their
first
receiver
round pick
rooms have
wide
been,
receivers just rolling through that place for like 5-6 years in a row, and now
yeah,
they have guys that are just like good, but not like they're not game breakers or anything.
dude. Their
Uh,
their leading receiver this year has 473 receiving yards.
That's crazy. Dude,
and Corey
Elijah
Gibbs,
Badger would be the best receiver on Alabama right now.
which is why I'm
Yeah,
like,
and that's yeah. No, you're right.
I mean, I'm sure they have some 5-star like generational freshmen coming in next year. They always do.
Right.
But their second leading receiver is Jahmyr Gibbs with
Yeah, the running
365
back.
receiving yards.
Yeah. No,
That's
that's my
crazy.
point. Like they just don't. I mean, even
But that proves, yeah.
ev-
I mean,
ev- everyone talks about Georgia as being this defensive team, and like they have way more receiving options than Bama does.
yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. If Jaden Daniels even gets to play for the SEC championship, I think
Oh, it
that'll
looks
be
terrible.
yeah. I think that'll be wild.
It looks terrible.
And I think it happens.
I think no, I think it will too. I honestly, yeah. They have the inside track. Yeah,
And
and if
then
he plays in the
imagine if
SEC championship, then that means even if they lose to Georgia, they'll probably go to like the Sugar Bowl or something.
yeah,
That's
they'll
still
play in a they'll
a good
play in
season.
a New Year's Six bowl for sure. But
Yeah.
imagine though if Jaden Daniels beats Georgia and gets to the college football playoff
Well,
after
then,
transferring from ASU.
yeah, that'd be bad. I
Yeah,
mean, I guess it's weird because like I don't really care about like Jaden Daniels, but it's just like if that it would just be like, like just in the
one
indirect.
year 1 year removed from this program, and he's
Yeah,
playing for a national championship.
and like here's the thing, like he was bad last year, and
Yeah,
it's obviously not just because of him because clearly he's playing a lot better, but that's what makes it kind of worse. Well, it's just annoying, but again, I don't have anything against Jade Daniels. Like I hope he does well. It's just
I
it's
thought it
it
was
just
a little. I thought it was a little corny how he said he released a video on Twitter saying he was
yeah
coming back and then transferred. It's like go about your business quietly. Even if there's that seed of doubt where you're like, I don't know if I want to come back.
yeah.
Don't fully commit to
I've heard
coming
that
back.
from a lot of people that like if he hadn't put out that video that was like produced, it wasn't like a 10-second like, hey, I'm coming back, yada yada, like uh then people wouldn't have been upset. But I mean, who knows? People might have been upset anyway. But
Yeah, I don't know. I think if he's quiet and he kind of goes about it, people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense with everything going on.
yeah.
But I
Well,
think the
this is
worst
why they just
part,
should have gotten rid of Herm Edwards last year. And anyway, well, that's enough for tonight, at least for me. Colton, it's been good having you back on the show.
Mark, the pleasure has been all mine.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's been episode 19. Like and subscribe, rate and review on your local podcasting platform, and go Devils. Thanks for
Shout
listening.
out, shout out to Reddit.